Hi, my name is Alan Seeley and welcome to the True Nature of Prosperity series. In our previous lesson, I touched on the stigma that often surrounds the topics of money, success, and prosperity, and the fact that there are many in the church who view the idea of God wanting us all to be prosperous as heresy. However, God is not only a God of prosperity, He is prosperity, and that is exemplified in the life of Joseph, who although was sold into slavery, was described as a prosperous man solely because God was with him. If a man or a woman prospers solely because God is with them, then it stands to reason that true biblical prosperity is the expression of God's presence in one's life. Success, money, and material wealth are merely the fruits of prosperity, but God is the root. Unfortunately, much of the stigma and taboos about money and prosperity is based on how certain statements made by Jesus have been interpreted. Statements such as, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God," or "Do not lay up for yourselves treasure on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal." However, as explained in the previous lesson, Jesus was often misunderstood due to the figurative nature of his statements and the fact that he used parables to convey his teachings. Parables are two versions or meanings of the same story placed side by side. There is the outer meaning, which is the literal meaning that Jesus imparted to the crowd and the spectators, those who are just hearers of the word. And then there is the inner meaning, which is the true meaning, or what I call the power meaning. The purpose of the outer meaning was to paint a picture of how inner power works. It was never meant to be taken literally. Jesus used parables both to conceal truth from the hearers of the word and reveal the dynamics of inner power to the doers of the word, those with the mind to put his teachings into practice. That is why Jesus said to his disciples, "It has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not." It is the inner meaning that Jesus described as the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, the mysteries of inner power. These mysteries are concealed in all the parables Jesus told, but there is one parable that holds the keys to unlocking the mystery that is within all parables. So let's continue with part 2 of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. When Jesus was alone, those around him, along with the 12 disciples, asked him about a parable they heard him share with the multitude earlier that day. His response to them was, "Do you not understand this parable? How then will you understand all parables?" The parable in question is what is known as the parable of the sower. Only the outer meaning of this parable was shared with the crowd, but those who walked with him desired to know its true meaning. Here is the version that Jesus shared with the crowd. "Behold, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Now here's the inner power meaning that was given to those that desired to know the true meaning. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is he who receives seed by the wayside. But he who receives seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Now he who receives seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. But he who receives seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and produces, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. If you only heard the outer meaning of the parable of the sower, you would think Jesus is talking about what happens when seed is sown into different types of soil or ground. That would only be the literal interpretation of the parable. However, when the outer meaning is placed alongside the inner meaning of the parable, we see a complete picture of how inner power works. We need only compare the different elements mentioned in the outer meaning with those mentioned in the inner meaning to get a clear understanding. In the outer meaning, we have the sower, the seed, the soil, and fruit. All the elements associated with sowing and reaping. Many of the parables Jesus told revolved around sowing and reaping, presented in diverse forms and permutations, whether it be the parable of weeds among the wheat, the parable of the mustard seed, or the parable of leavened bread, and others. All carry a sense of sowing and reaping. The four elements presented in the parable of the sower are symbols portraying the elements mentioned in the true inner meaning. When we implement these symbols in the inner meaning, we now understand that the sower is God, the seed is the word of the kingdom, which is divine thought, vision, or ideas. The soil represents your heart, not your physical heart, but your subconscious mind. And the fruit is the manifestation of the thought seed sown or implanted in your heart. When a word from God is sown into the subconscious mind, it manifests into the physical reality of that word, whether it be healing, victory, or prosperity. The various types of soil are different conditions of the heart. However, only one condition bears fruit. That being the mind that hears, understands, believes, and accepts the word as truth. Once God's thoughts have been accepted as truth in the subconscious mind, it is only a matter of time before it materializes in your outer world. This is the mystery of the kingdom of heaven, the divine law of your mind. The mysteries of the kingdom of heaven pertains to what takes place within your heart, rather than what takes place above your head. When Jesus speaks of mysteries, he is referring to the profound power that is unleashed through the inner workings of mind and spirit. This is the core of Christ's teachings about the kingdom of heaven. Upon closer examination, it will become apparent that most, if not all, of the figurative terms and statements made by Jesus pertain to the mind, specifically addressing our beliefs, attitudes, and way of thinking. You must therefore refrain from interpreting his words according to physical reality, as that could place you in lack and bondage. You must instead interpret his words according to the language and spiritual terminology of mind, consciousness, and spirit.